For some people, they love being around me because I want to see into your soul over dinner. I don't care who your favorite baseball team is. I want to know why you like baseball in the first place. And I'm habitually curious and I habitually ask questions because I want to learn all the time.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
What up, y'all? Welcome back to the Creatures Have It podcast. It is a new year. It is a new year. And this podcast may air in either late January or sometime in February, but it doesn't matter because it's a new motherfucking year. And I'm fired up, as you can see. Got a good workout in this morning, and I've got a guest on the show that is going to talk to us about how to, first of all, Dr. Sean Pastuch has literally trained the athletes, coaches, and the athletes' coaches. He was a trainer himself back in the day and saw that he wasn't like interested in taking the PT life all the way to fruition for what he thought it could be down the road. He wasn't interested in that. He went back to school, got a chiropractic degree, and also felt the same way about that. So he wanted to come up with a way to really make an impact in a unique and different way by combining his PT experience or his personal training experience, this thing that he did as a chiropractor, which he was interested in, but he really wanted to create something unique, and he created something called Active Life, which I'm really, really excited to learn more about. We just had a little offline before we started filming here. Active Life is a platform that Doc has built to really help people get out of pain without having to go to the doctor, which in my opinion is like I want that and more because I'm an athlete, and one other thing that I want to say before we kick off the podcast, because I think it's so fresh in my mind, is this idea that, and I don't give a fuck who you like, I don't care what you say or if you're going to judge me for saying this. At the end of the day, from my experience and from a lot of successful people I also know that have a similar feeling, if you're not right with your fitness, your movement, and your nutrition, and your sleep, those three things, if you're not right with your fitness, doesn't mean that you have to go absolutely ape shit in the gym, but if you're not right with your fitness, if you're not right with your nutrition, and if you're not right with your sleep, you really cannot expect to be happy. You could potentially be successful financially, potentially, but you will not be fucking happy. And if you're listening to this right now and you're not happy, I promise you, if you push pause and listen again to what I just said, get right with your fitness, your nutrition, and your sleep, happiness is in your future, I promise. But without that, it's not available for you. That is from my experience. It doesn't matter what other people say or think as far as I'm concerned. That's my experience, and a lot of people I know have a very similar experience. Dr. Sean, thank you so much for being here, dude.
I love being here. I don't know if you know how much, I don't know what the right word is, the manifesting thinking like that went into this moment for me right now. Can I tell you the story on your podcast?
Please, I would love that.
Okay. 2021. The world had decided COVID wasn't a thing anymore. New York City was kind of having its moment, right? Like, oh, we're open, just wear a schmata on your face or whatever, just wherever you go. So I had gotten tickets for my wife and I to go see this thing called the Van Gogh Experience, which was right down the block from this seafood restaurant called Seymour's. So we went to see it, and then we came back and we got dinner at Seymour's. There was an oyster shucking event outside, and I really wanted to sit outside. Like, it was nice. We wanted to be outside. So I go to the staff. I'm like, is there anything that you guys can do to help us get a table outside? If you can't, I totally understand. I'm not looking for you to break any rules. But if there's anything that you can do that would allow us to sit outside, I would be forever grateful. And they did it, and they did it without giving me any kind of like attitude. There was no negativity. It was just, yeah, we would love to help you do that. And they went and they cleared a table. And I said to my wife, whoever owns this place is doing it right, and I want to meet this person because this person who just set the table for us is probably like 30 or 40 people removed from the owner in terms of like day-to-day operations. And that was you. And so I was like, all right, I don't know how I'm going to get this guy's attention. He's clearly more than just a single restaurant owner. There's a lot going on. A lot of people probably want this guy's attention. And I just kept on finding places that we were both in the same world. And it was, once you were on the radar for me, I just, reticular activating system. I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to be there. I'll be there too. Strong New York, Gabrielle Lyon, my friend, she's speaking. I'm like, maybe I'll go, maybe I won't go. I find out you're the host. I'm like, I'm going. And then I sat at the stage to the side, right where you were. And
I remember right after it, you said, what's up to me?
Yeah, I wanted to make a relationship happen. Like being on the podcast, super cool. A relationship is what I was really interested in.
You know, man, I am so happy you said that. First of all, thank you so much, because it's so interesting for me to hear a story like that, because I've made it my job and duty to be very mindful of my surroundings and build my self-awareness enough to know that you never know how you're going to impact and or touch someone. Ever. And in the world of hospitality, which is the world I grew up in for so long, I always put culture at the forefront of the business, which was basically, and quite frankly, for me as a founder and, you know, a leader of this company, it didn't have to do with the guests at that point in my career. I wasn't really interested in the guests culture. I was far more interested in the internal company culture, meaning I put all of my love and energy into the team because I know for sure that when the team is fired up and excited and stoked and confident and feel support, the story that you just told me is going to happen over and over and over again. So that doesn't mean that I don't care about the guests. You know,
it's the opposite.
I fucking love the guests. The guests are everything. But the team is so, it's like, you know, my wife and I we have this like this cultural, like our family, you know, we're just, we're always hosting. We always have people over. You know, our kids are like super even keel and level. And I really do believe that it's this intentional mindset for developing culture within a group of people, right? And so it just makes me so happy that you said that. So thank you for the squad over at Seymour's. You guys are constantly crushing it. The pandemic crushed the restaurant business in New York, dude. Crushed it.
But when you say crush it for people who are not in New York, he's not speaking crush it like
in
Gary
a good way.
Vaynerchuk.
Yeah. No. It was brutal. Like Meatball Shop walked into the pandemic with 6 restaurants, and once the pandemic, you know, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you still see people. I just on the train today, like a third of the fucking train were wearing masks. I was like, is this really still happening here in New York? I mean, I don't live in the city anymore, so it's like when I see that, I'm like, geez.
It's not that's you know, we can this whole podcast can go sideways if we start talking about this, but that's a remnant of an environment of people who I think of as they were already living at 211 degrees in stress, and then the world threw this curveball. And I'm not looking at I'm not suggesting anybody was doing anything nefariously. Let's just assume everybody was trying to do their best and things fell apart. People who were at 211, they just turned that flame on.
Yeah.
And now getting that water to stop boiling, it's like, well, they need a life change.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's wild. I mean, it's wild to see.
And by the way, food always tastes better from a server with a smile.
Oh my gosh. Anybody who's listening to this podcast who is in the hospitality industry, just know the best thing you can do, the number one best, if you're a restaurant owner, if you're a server, you want to make more money, you're a bartender, the best thing you can do, and it's so simple. You know what? Let me actually reframe that. As a human being,
you took my thunder, man.
As a fucking human, the number one thing you can do is smile.
We're all in the hospitality business.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're building a widget on a line somewhere. You have relationships, and you want meaningful relationships. And I was talking to people don't know, we don't need to get into it. My train got canceled on the way out here. I called the driver to pick me up and get me. I'm like, I'm not missing this podcast. If I have to park my car in Times Square myself and get it towed and figure it out later, I'll do it. But I was talking to the driver on the way out here. He's like, what's a podcast? He didn't understand what a podcast was. And I said, look, I have the best job in the world because everyone's favorite subject is themselves. So I'm going to go to a place. A guy's going to ask me a bunch of questions about me. He's going to be good at it. I get to speak about myself, my favorite subject in the world. And outside of this, my job is to talk about everybody else, not me. It's the best way to build relationships. It's the best way to build trust is to spend as much of the time asking questions about the other person. So there isn't even time for them to ask you questions about you, and they will leave with a smile and say it was a great conversation.
You nailed it. I mean, I also want to just put a plug out there for what you said about relationship development, because I think my true passion and ambition and drive is developing relationships. I am a glutton for connecting with humans at scale. Truly, like that's what I love. And so the fact that you said that just reminded me. I mean, he's still, I would call him a mentor, but there's a guy named Richard Carrain who was Danny Meyer's right hand at Union Square Hospitality. I believe he still is, Union Square Hospitality Group. Arguably one of the foremost leading restaurateurs in the country. And Richard is one of the kindest guys in the world. Truly, like the guy is just a wonderful human. And so I would meet with him every quarter or so, and we were sitting at one of his restaurants, and he just like kind of stopped me, like mid sentence. We were having breakfast, and he goes, "Look over there," and I looked over there, and he's like, "I'm gonna wait to see what happens." He's like, "But you see that guest that's kind of like walking around a little aimlessly?" He was like, "That's a relationship waiting to happen, and if someone on this team doesn't go develop that relationship, I promise and guarantee you someone else somewhere else will." And I was like, man, like the power of relationship development is so real. It is so much more potent and so much more impactful than anything a spreadsheet can tell you. You can make a spreadsheet say anything.
Yeah.
You really can.
Especially today, because there's, with the growth of social media, and I don't think it's social media's fault, I think it's just an accelerant. We've gotten to a world where relationships have become transactional too often. It's like, oh yeah, I want to go meet this person, do this thing because they can do this thing for me. Or I'll do this for them because then they'll do this for me. It's like, that's the wrong person to start getting involved with. The thing that allowed Active Life and myself, my personal brand, my whatever you want to call it, to grow, has been the letting go of what do I get in return for doing that, and just doing it because that's what I want to do. When I've been able to start giving and going so much further into relationship building without ever thinking about what I get out of it, A, I've gotten a lot more out of it. B, I've stopped becoming surprised by that. And C, a lot of my stress went away and it became a lot more fun. Like are you familiar with Jay Ferrucci at all?
Yeah, he's a friend.
So I met Jay at Strong New York, interestingly enough, in 2017, I think. I was getting interviewed by Barbell Shrugged, and he had just done it. And he's like, "Hey, I like your Instagram." I'm like, "Oh, I like your Instagram. We just become best friends?" No, we just learned who each other were. And I kept up with him very sporadically online. We were both at an event called the Silverback Summit in Austin for Ali Gilbert, and he spoke. I was an attendee, and we hit it off. We got breakfast. We got every meal together. We worked out together while we were there. I'm like, this guy's awesome. He connects people. He makes everybody happier. He makes the room better when he's in it. I want to develop a real relationship with this guy. He invites me out to Santa Monica. I'm like, I hate travel. Like, I love travel. I hate traveling. I love my family. I like being with my family. And he's like, you should come out to Santa Monica. Like, I was just there like 2 weeks ago. I said to him, like, 2 days? What do you think? He's like, just come out for a day. I'm like, fuck it. So I went, and it was great. And I'm so happy that I went and started to build a relationship with him. And like, it sounds weird, but like dating dudes again is the way that I'm finding like, oh, I'm becoming a better person because I'm surrounding myself with better people who, when I see, oh, they saw this post, I wouldn't have said that if I knew they were going to see that post. Well, then I can't say that. Say this instead. Say the same thing. Say it like this. Like, that's how people level you up.
It's dating dudes again. I mean,
for the first time, by the way.
No, but I think right. Well, I think once men, and for whatever reason in our sort of day and age here in the United States, specifically in like metropolitan arenas, right? We're not making new friends. It's weird. Like I wish that developing, like, you're intentional about that relationship, right? Mm-hmm. When you're in high school, in college, like, it's just, you know, like, you got friends everywhere, right? When you break out of that, and maybe you're in a relationship and you get married, you have kids, like, you're not going to the bar all the time. You're not like going to the club. Like, you know, you're not meeting in the locker room. Like, what are we doing as men to connect with other men? Not a lot.
No. And what I'm learning, at least for myself, is it's hard. You have to be intentional about it. Yeah. Like getting on a plane and flying out to California and staying in a hotel to hang out with a guy for a few hours on one day.
It's real.
Yeah. And it was I would do it every single time. Right? Like the thing I actually worry about is that I come on too strong for relationships, right? Because I have a memory that my wife constantly used to have to bail me out of situations where she's like, he's not a creep. He just remembers everything. Mm-hmm. Like women who I went to college with, who I had one conversation with on a bus ride one time, who end up coming to the same town I'm in, playing volleyball against me. They see the Maryland shirt and they're like, I went to Maryland too. And I'm like, I know everything about you.
That's so funny.
We had a conversation once. My wife has to remind me not to do that. Right? Because I would want someone to do it with me. I'm just like, yeah, I'm here. Let's go all in.
I wanna just hear about Active Life so everybody gets a clear picture of what it is. I don't know if I did the greatest job of explaining it.
It's okay. Like I said, the podcast for me was the bonus, right? Like the relationship with you is what I was interested in. Active Life is a company that was born out of all of the problems that I had continuously getting solved. So I was a personal trainer working at a local mom and pop gym. I left when my boss set me up to sell a bag of steroids to a member without knowing. So the guy just came, he's like, hey, there's a gym bag for me under the front desk. I'm like, no, there's not. He's like, yeah, there is. Oh, there is. Gave me $700-something. He's like, there's no change. I'm like, I just sold a bag of steroids. That could have been an undercover cop. I don't know what's going on. So I quit next day. Went and worked at Equinox, and to make a long story short, I became a full-time trainer, full-time roster, full-time schedule in under 5 weeks. Because I was the guy like you were just describing. I didn't know I was doing it. I wasn't even intentional about it. I found the relationships. So it's easy to build a business when you're charismatic and you're working with hot chicks doing choreographed boxing and dancing down the middle of the Equinox floor. That wasn't appealing to me. I was finding the people who looked lost and helping them find their way. Those are people who you end up finding out, oh, this guy's got ALS. This person has frozen shoulder. This person is advising the president and feels insecure about the way that he looks and the way that he's advising, because how am I going to advise the president on drugs if I'm 150 pounds overweight and breathing heavy by the time I get up the stairs? These are the clients I started to get working at Equinox. And I would go up to the physical therapy suite and ask, what do I do with these people? Like, this guy can't do this guy can't do this woman can't do this. I'm like, oh, just work around it. If it hurts, don't do it. Oh, they're just too old. I'm like, this sucks. I looked into like courses I could take as a trainer to help these people, because I'm like, look, I'm full-time. I'm the man, just ask me. But I feel unfulfilled because I can't get results for these clients. And I'm tired of telling them we just won't do it and watching them compromise on it. Watching them say, okay, but not mean it. They were like, deep down they were saying, I wish you could help me solve this, but if this is the best it's going to get, fine. So I went to chiropractic school because I thought that's where I would learn how to save the world. My father was a chiropractor. My uncle was a chiropractor. That was not for me. Got out of school, I realized I learned a lot. That was really cool. Got into practice. Practiced for almost a decade. I had Olympians flying out to see me, professional baseball players flying out to see me. In 2017, I think there were like 40 athletes at the CrossFit Games I was working with.
And adjusting them?
Mostly soft tissue, some adjustments, and a lot of exercise.
Okay.
So really, when you're at the CrossFit Games working on an athlete, let's just use this as a good example for people. 99% of what I'm doing is bullshit. And I don't care what anybody says. It's bullshit. They are coming over saying, my shoulder hurts when I do this. Can you fix it before my next workout? No. No, I can't. But let me tell you yes in the moment because it's what you need to hear. Let me put my hands on it.
Placebo.
Yep. Ask you if it feels better. They're like, yeah, it does. Great. I've taken more Arasti tape off of athletes than probably most doctors have ever bought in terms of the tape. Because what would happen is they would come over to me and they would say, my calf hurts. What's going on? I don't know. They taped it up for me, but it's bothering me. I'm like, is the tape making it feel better? No. Is the tape reminding you that you have a problem there? Yeah, actually it is. I'm like, great. Cool if I take it off? Yeah. Tape off. I'm like, let me do a little thing for it. Rub whatever. Feel better? Yeah. Like, great. You're going to kill this next workout. That was my job on game day. It's a psychologist. It's not a hands-on doctor. I got to see some really cool stuff back there, but that was fun for me. The mental game of it. The mental game of I put my hands on you and change your brain. That was cool. And I couldn't get enough of that, and I couldn't do it enough, and I wanted to just focus on the brain for the brain. So I remember there's a day my roster was full. I'm showing up to clinic. I had a patient who had flown in from out of town, another patient who had driven hours to come and see. Like, they're both staying at a hotel. And I was like, ugh, it sucks. I'm like, well, that's a problem. I'm not happy. I have a full schedule of patients today, and I'm not happy. And so I just decided to leave clinic. And gym owner, I was on my third CrossFit gym that I was owning. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm done. Ended up exchanging with my business partner at the time. He was really good and really liked the hands-on and the in-person stuff. So he got the gym and he got the clinic. And I took this online thing that we had kind of started and thought maybe could be a thing and turned it into Active Life. And more of the story, I struggled a lot financially, felt like a failure financially for a long time. I come from a family of successful people, and I'm like, here I am working 17-hour days, 5 days a week, and a 12-hour Saturday, making 30 grand. This is in 2016. Hired a mentor, 2017, told me if you want to be more successful in business, you got to become a better person. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm great. And that's a whole other podcast. But 2017 is the first year I made 100 grand. I made like 150. And in December, I told my wife, I'm giving it up. I know what it takes to be successful at this, and I don't want it. And 2018, started helping people online. The end of 2018, I helped enough people online that their coaches were like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? Started teaching their coaches. And then by 2020, gym owners were like, I have one coach on my roster making a living. You coached him. What's going on? So we started coaching gym owners. And now fast forward 2023, January, we opened our first brick and mortar location in Long Beach, New York. And we now have the online services for people, help you get out of pain from anywhere in the world without going to the doctor, missing the gym. We teach coaches how to go from being your top 10% coach. That's great. If you want to be top 1%, you know where to find me. We help gym owners create environments that'll be inspiring to that top 1% coach that will attract the kind of client who's going to come to you because you're a category of one. There's nobody else doing what you're doing. And we're opening our brick and mortars. So there's a lot, too much, if you ask me. But But that's what active life is now.
I fucking love that. Active life really is a culmination of you being able to do what the fuck you want to do, basically.
Me being able to solve problems that I felt like the industries that were set up to solve those problems failed to solve. And, you know, the most interesting thing is like, what solved my problems? Becoming a better person. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, the hardest thing for me to explain to people about what we do is we're really a personal development company disguised as a health and fitness company.
So just walk me through, because I want to get to habits, but I just reach out to you guys and I say, hey, I need help. Mm-hmm. I got L4, L5, L5, S1, L3, L4 bulging disc.
Yeah.
I can't fucking squat anymore, but I love I'm an athlete. I love fitness. Tell me, help me.
Yeah. So there's a lot there, man. The first thing, and let me start at the end, and then work back to the beginning if that's okay.
Okay.
If it ends up being a fit, we help you get back to doing all of the things that you love to do without even thinking about them anymore. Because we change the way that you consider what all of those things are. We change the way that what you feel actually does to your brain. And we realign your relationship with A, the pain that you're dealing with, and B, the body that you're living in. All of that happens by the time we're done. And as a result of how we did it with you, we want to not only have done such a good job helping you, we want to have done such a good job helping you that the way you live changes. And when people are like, Mike, what is different about you? Like, you have to try this. The way we do that is, first and foremost, you just rattled off a bunch of diagnoses that a doctor gave you based on an MRI that was correlated with a list of findings. Who says that's why you can't squat? And by the way, is it true that you can't squat?
No, because I definitely squatted and deadlifted this morning.
Right, but you so we start with the conversation of, is what you're telling even the truth? Because people have a really loose relationship with accuracy and the truth, and that loose relationship leads to stories that we tell ourselves about who we need to be, how we need to live, what we can do, what we can't do. And then we live in that box of compromise that we created for ourselves. So we start with what's the truth and what's accurate. Then we determine, do we believe we would be a good fit to actually help you achieve what you want to achieve? And if we don't, our team will go online, find a person who can, develop a relationship with them if we don't already have one, and then introduce you to them. So the work is done for you and we're never getting paid. We're agnostic to who gets paid for your results. Because our belief is, at the end of the day, you're going to have a customer service experience with us that you're just like, everybody should call Active Life. The worst thing that happens is they're going to refer you to somebody else. You should call. And we have the statistics to back it up, where we offer enrollment to less than 50% of people who reach out to us, which is the sign of two things. One, we probably need to improve our marketing, to be more specific. And two, a lot of people have a lot of problems and they think they need this, but they need that. So that's the way we get you there. Assessment. Once we're through the mindset part, which is a big part. Assessment. What's long, what's strong, what's weak, what's working well, what's working poorly. Let's move away from, you have these disc diagnoses and that's what's causing this, because I can introduce you to 30 people who have the same diagnoses and none of the symptoms. So it's not that. Could it be? Yeah. Is it? Probably not. What's working? What's not working? Where are you strong when you shouldn't be that strong? Where are you weak where you should be stronger? Where are you lacking flexibility that you needed to do the things that you're doing? Where do you have too much flexibility to do the things that you're doing? And we get really precise with all of that. We start to rebuild you focusing on that kind of stuff. We don't diagnose. We don't treat. We just manage what we find. And when we start to find these things improving, what oftentimes starts to happen is it's like, oh yeah, the pain's going away too. We don't promise the pain resolution. We promise that you're going to be able to live a life where you don't think about squatting anymore. You're just going to be able to do it. You don't think about deadlifting anymore. You're just going to be able to do it, whether it hurts or not. Because what's pain? You ever laid on a massage table and had somebody give you a massage and you're like, ow. Mm-hmm. And then they say what? Oh, do you want me to stop? And what do you say?
No,
I need this. Well, what makes that different than what you're feeling when you're in the gym? How do you know that's not what you need? You said you're in sobriety, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How painful was the experience of figuring out that you're the guy who doesn't need this stuff, that I don't need a wall to push against, like I can just be happy without this stuff?
Oh, dude, you're talking to a guy who like fucking runs right to the pain. I love it.
Right.
I mean, I love it. Outside of the 2 months from June to August that I had excruciating sciatica. That just destroyed me. But I will tell you one interesting piece of that. I learned so much. I don't regret that at all. I learned so much in that 2-month period of time about myself that it was worth it.
Sure. What you're describing, though, is the reason you do that is it's the thing that makes you successful. Physically, in your relationships, in your businesses. You're like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Let me lean into it so that I can become the person who this wouldn't be uncomfortable for anymore. You do that all over the place. When it comes to our bodies, and I'm not saying you should have done it with your sciatica, so I want to be clear. I'm not saying you should have just pushed through that, Michael. When we feel discomfort, like, I got to stop. I don't know, I just got to stop. Well, why? Why? If we were walking down the sidewalk, me, you, and I don't know, James Harrison, the guy who used to play linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we all trip at the same time, we have 3 very different experiences. Our life leading up to the moment that we tripped tells us, did we just hurt ourselves? Is what I'm feeling from my elbow to my pinky permanent? Or is this going to go away in a second? He has one experience, you have another, I have another. So when we start experiencing discomfort or pain around the way that we move, and we've never had it before, and the thing that we tie it to is squatting or deadlifting or throwing or running, it's like, oh man, I'm going to stop doing that. Maybe you should. Maybe you shouldn't. What is causing it? Is it a good thing for you? Is it a bad thing for you? We have to be able to read those signs, and that's what we help people do on a level that I don't think anyone else is even trying.
So based on your experience, I mean, it sounds like you have really walked a very like sort of almost, I would call it almost esoteric path in the world of healing, right? And coaching. From those learnings, if you had to pick out, normally on the pod, we talk about morning routine, evening routine, habits throughout your day, potentially habits that you've broken. But what I'm really a little bit more interested in here is understanding a few things that you've learned from working with so many people. And I would call you really helping people heal in a way that they never thought they could potentially heal, right? By changing the framework, changing the perspective. It sounds to me like that's what you're really doing.
I like to tell people that and Active Life, we help people live a life of freedom without compromise. That's it. And we're not talking about compromising on what's for dinner or on, what we're going to watch tonight on Netflix. We're talking about the values and the mission of life. We're not going to compromise on those. And too often people are doing it.
What are those?
What are what?
The values and mission in life.
Everyone has their own. Like, so for me, I've made my core values our company's core values. The first core value is to live a life that inspires others. The second core value is to reveal the exceptional in everyone that we come across, because it's already there. I don't need to build it in you. There's an exceptional there. It's going to help you figure out what it is. The third is to have relentless commitment to the mission. The fourth, which for us, by the way, is to help people live a life of freedom without compromise. The fourth is that balance is only found in world-class work. And world-class work does not mean occupational work. I want to be a world-class dad. I want to be a world-class husband. I want to be a world-class friend. And I want to be a world-class entrepreneur. There isn't this is good enough. Yeah, it's good enough. That doesn't exist for me. I don't get it. And so I'm able to be present all the time because I'm in pursuit of world-class. And I don't think I'll know when I get there. And then finally, think bigger about everything that you can do. You can do bigger than that. Who told you that's all you can do? Who told you that's all you can be? You can be bigger if you want. So for me, those are mine. What are yours? I don't know. I don't think most people have decided. I don't think most people have considered it. But part of our job is to help people do that. And the thought process is, well, if I'm coming to you for back pain, I don't want all of that. I just want to be out of back pain. Cool. Then go to the physical therapist. Well, but they weren't able to help me. Well, why do you think that is? I don't know. It's not because they don't know what they're doing. It's because you need to become a person who wouldn't have had that back pain in the first place. We have to change. We have to help you figure out who you need to be so that you can live the life that you want to live. Because you don't actually want to get out of back pain. You don't care about the back pain at all. You care about what the back pain is robbing you in your life from. So nobody calls the doctor until they're afraid. No one's like, oh, I just hurt my knee. I'm going to call the doctor right now. Everyone thinks it'll go away in a few days. And then it doesn't. And then they either decide I'm going to live with it, or they're like, I can't go running anymore. I love running. That's my mental decompression. What if I can't run anymore? And then they have the anxiety of going forward. And then they call the doctor, not because the knee hurts, because they're afraid to lose the running. So the reason that the things don't get better so often is because we think of them as a mechanical deficiency within a body when it's not. We're a fully fluid system, and everything is intertwined.
What are some habits that you can share with the audience for people that potentially are going through similar things that a client or a patient would walk into the business for?
So there's a few things I do habitually. One of them is I'm habitually curious and cynical. And that doesn't mean anything negative. It means I'm like, why is this person telling me this? Is this the best that they know? Is it true? Is it accurate? Is it what they've gotten from their experience? Is it what they got from their education? And I ask the questions habitually. This is why for some people, they love being around me, because I want to see into your soul over dinner. I don't care who your favorite baseball team is. I want to know why you like baseball in the first place. And I'm habitually curious, and I habitually ask questions because I want to learn all the time. I habitually go into problems. So for me, if there's something that is like you were describing before, it's uncomfortable, I'm wired to lean into that. Not necessarily to solve it, to figure out why is this so uncomfortable for me? Like if Active Life has a bad month on the balance sheet, and I know everyone likes to come on to podcasts and pretend every month is great. Not every month is great, right?
Definitely not.
No, there's some months that you're like, why the fuck?
This month is great so far.
Good for you. There's months where you're like, I could make more money going and getting a job for somebody else with less stress. What am I doing? But I couldn't. It's not who I am. I don't want that. I want what I do. So when I feel that discomfort, I lean into it. Why do I feel this discomfort? Who do I need to become so that this is no longer uncomfortable and something bigger has to happen for me to be uncomfortable? I habitually assume people are trying their best. I know that sounds ridiculous and it sounds like a platitude, but like on the ride out here, I was hysterical laughing in the backseat of the car because the driver missed an exit. And like in Manhattan, you know how it is in the city or like getting into the city, if you stop and slow traffic down because you're going to have to merge in a place that you were about to miss, everyone's honking at you. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, I feel bad for these people that they feel like they need to lay on their horn. Like you were already there. You were already having a bad day. And then he merges over and feels the need to roll the window down and be like, go fuck yourself.
The driver?
The driver. He's like, oh, you're in such a fucking hurry. Go fuck yourself. And he's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to tell him, he's like, this guy thinks he's so tough. I'm like, oh God. I'm just, it's funny to me where in the past, I might have been that guy yelling at somebody else. I created success for myself in regards to like, what is a successful day? And then I habitually get it. Like a successful day for me isn't making a sale. It's not getting a client. It's not building a relationship. It's as simple as I'm home for dinner. I am home for dinner with my wife and kids. And I cook the dinner. So it means I got to be home early enough to make the dinner that my 5, 7, and 9-year-old can eat and get to bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock.
So you're home at 5?
5:30.
Yeah.
So for me, I also need to be there. I can't just be in the room.
You got to be there. Yeah.
I have to be there. So that means everything in the day has to be tied up for me to be there when I get home. That's a successful day. I don't win every day. There are days I get home and I'm like, fuck, like, I love that you want to be with me right now. I'm not here right now mentally. And I battle with that because I'm like, there's nothing in the world I want to be more than a positive influence on my kids and my wife.
We share that. We share that for sure.
I know. That's one of the reasons I wanted a relationship with you. But I habitually make sure, like, there are no meetings on my schedule after this time because I'm home. If one wants to come on and I'm interested in having it, there's a conversation to have with my wife. Like, it's a process. And these are things that in the beginning were really difficult for me because I felt like if I'm not at work, it's not happening. And so I have to be there. And so I had to create habits around like, well, I'm not, I had to tell myself, you're failing if you're still at work at this time.
Change the perspective. Yeah.
Yes. Why do you still need to be there? Who do you need to become so that you don't need to be at work at that time?
I think I just got to talk, I got to hop in there because I think that is such an interesting and very, very, very powerful thing you just said, right? We're trained, molded, cultivated to believe even, fuck hustle culture as kids. It's like you work hard, you work long hours. Like that's the meaning of like, you see the successful. They're just they're in it hard at the desk, 18 hours a day. And what I've learned was that for me is what I thought, just like you thought, was the meaning of success. I gotta work harder than everybody. I gotta be there longer than everybody. I gotta be the first one in, last one out, period, done. That's what it's gonna take. And maybe that is what it took in the beginning. But now the perspective is completely changed. And it's like, if I am not at the dinner table at 5:55, like you, I still struggle with like being fully present. Not all the time, but there are definitely times where I'm like, Mike, please snap out of this. But the perspective has changed is that if I am fucking failing, if I'm not at that dinner table. Why? Because the truth of the matter is I got to ask myself the question, am I working to live or am I living to work? What am I doing?
There's an important grounding moment here, I think, for everybody who's listening. I believe that's earned. I believe that too often today, this is why one of the core values I have is balance is only found in doing world-class work. People are looking for work-life balance. Like, where's my balance? I don't know. I do this and then I go do this, and they're just lying to themselves all day long, and it's causing anxiety and it's causing burnout. We can tell people all that we want. Working 17-hour days isn't what's going to make you successful.
But can I say something?
Yeah.
Maybe it is.
No, but that's what I was going to say. But I had to do it.
So did I.
You had to do it.
Right.
I think everyone should do it. Because what you'll learn is, why am I having to work 17 hours? It's because I'm not efficient. It's because I do a lot of things that are not that important. It's because I'm failing to lead other people. It's because I haven't acquired the skill set of delegation and development. So for me, it was pivotal. It sounds like it was for you too when you were having dinner with I forget the gentleman's name, who was Danny Meyer's right-hand man.
Rich Corain, yeah.
To have mentors intervene in our lives and shine a light on the most uncomfortable things for us so that we can become a better version. Because if I don't work 17, the most comfortable thing in the world for me is chaos. If shit's hitting the fan, you're calling me. I know you are, because every time shit hits the fan and I'm in the room, everybody else is more calm because I'm just going to do it, whatever it is. I'll learn the quantum physics if I have to do it when the shit's hitting the fan. That's when I'm the guy. So it's comforting to me to know when I have anxiety, when I have this it's because we're at peacetime. Okay. Don't fuck this up, right? Allow this thing to go. But I had to go through 17-hour days to know if it ever came to it, I could do that again for a short period of time. Like if everybody in the company decided to leave, which please, I'm looking at the camera, stay, I love you, I need you, I want you, and they know this. I could do something and be successful financially at least to provide for the family. I would be failing at the dinner table thing. But I know I could pull out of it in a period of time because I've acquired a skill set. And I know what that crucible feels like. Stop looking, I'm talking to the audience now, stop looking for the 6-hour, 8-hour, 4-hour work day or week before you've experienced all of the parts of the job at the same time. That's my thought process.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, right, like you cannot learn what it feels like to fail. You can't learn that from someone else, right? Like what it feels like to fail, or at least be on the edge of failure, that feeling is invaluable in my experience. It is arguably the money can't buy that feeling of what it's of how a catastrophic experience is. I fight for them. I fight for them. And I'm not like one of these guys that's, just like, I live in the dirt. Like I'm not David Goggins. You know what I mean?
Me either.
I'm not David Goggins. But I do appreciate how integral failing and pain have been in my success. And it sounds like the same for you.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like, this idea that like you shouldn't have to work 17-hour days. When you're 22, 23, 24 years old and you're coming up, no one's going to teach you what it feels like to work 17-hour days. So you're not going to understand how to go from 17 to 16 to 12 to 10. And as you're learning and as those hours are getting shorter, you've then surrounded yourself with far better people to help you just be a better human. And like you can hear this on the podcast and be like, oh man, I just got to start working less hours. It's really like you've got to fucking experience it.
You have to go through whatever it is, and then it will bring you out the other side.
But I think the number one key to this whole thing, and I love the conversation, the number one key to the whole thing is what I've been saying for a long time in my experience is the only thing you have to do perfectly, is get back up. Like the minute you decide that you're going to fucking let that 8, 9, and you're not at that 9 exploding back up to your feet, that's when it's over.
Yeah, look, I've been through many of those. I'm glad I had them. I don't want another one. I really don't want another one. But I'm glad I had them because now I know how I respond in that situation. I had Hurricane Sandy wipe my business and my home off the map in an hour. I had my business partner and I split when he was the whole business. What do I do?
You got back up.
Yeah, every time.
That's it.
What other choice do you have, man?
My 2 boys go to karate. And I love their sensei. He and I become friends. Talking about like men making friends in your 30s and 40s. He's become a friend. I have a sauna on the property. He comes over every Tuesday night. He and I hit
what on the property?
Sauna.
Okay.
Yeah. So we hit the sauna. We jump in my freezing cold pond or the cold plunge, and we chill. We smoke a cigar. It's awesome. He's my kid sensei, and I love the guy. He's got a poster on the wall. A Japanese thing, and every single time my kids are in karate, he says to the kids, 7 down, and they say 8 up. And when I heard that, I'm like, I fucking love that guy. Like I feel like that lesson, I learned that in martial arts too, but man, like your life is that.
Yeah, I learned that in marriage. Like for me, if it wasn't for having a strong wife who believed in me, I had to become somebody for her. That's where I learned it. I was like, I can't stay down. She needs me to get up. That's where I learned it. And I tell coaches this all the time because they come and they're like, the biggest complaint that you'll get from anybody, whether it's a follower on Instagram, a client, or a stranger, is I'm working so hard and I'm not making any progress. A, is that true? B, which part of it's not? Right? Like either you're making progress, it's just not the progress that you expected. You had a plan and it's going differently. Welcome to life. Or you're not working that hard. Like I tell people, one of the exercises we like to put clients through is what I call the unsustainable week. I did it for a month. When I left my clinic in December 2017 and went into private, my business for myself at Active Life in 2018, I told my wife, I'll see you in February. And I just did an unsustainable, ungodly amount of work because I had that background. I knew I could go there. And I built a business in a month. And I just tell people, I'm like, you're not putting your back up against the wall as if your life depended on it. And if you did that for just 1 week, you would learn what you're capable of. And you'd come out of that week, maybe with another client, maybe with a different business, maybe with nothing except the knowledge I can do that when I need to.
We talked about so much, man. We covered a lot, and we didn't talk an enormous amount about habits, and I'm happy we didn't, because I feel like this podcast is going to bring serious value. At the end of this, for me, what I've learned from you is everybody is going to be different. Mm-hmm. Everybody is going to be different, and you being curious as a human makes you better. Being curious as an entrepreneur is essential, and literally being flexible in life in general when it comes to self-development and helping to develop others.
Well, I'd push back on you a little bit. I think we talked about the one habit that makes all other habits easier, and that's habitually improving ourselves. Like the whole podcast, we talked about self-improvement. Mm-hmm. And if we get into the mindset of I'm going to be a little bit better than I was yesterday. My wife is sick right now. I've been living in a different bedroom than she is. She's just got like whatever. And I'm traveling tomorrow. I don't want to get what she has. So I've been living away from her for like the week. And I'm like, you stay away from the kids. I'll take care of the kids. This morning I'm making breakfast and I'm like, I went through this like, oh, this is so annoying. I have to figure out like all these things. And then I just thought to myself, she doesn't need to know. Just make her the fucking breakfast, bring it upstairs, smile, tell her you love her, and you have everything figured out. That's it. And that's something that I only started being able to do maybe like 6 months ago when I decided our relationship isn't 50-50. It's 100%. I'm 100% for you. And that decision that I made 6 months ago, we've had a great relationship, but deciding to think that way allowed me to have a better morning today than I otherwise would have had. So I think we did talk about the habit of self-improvement the whole time.
You're doing better than me today, brother.
Yeah, well, I've had to stay on the whole morning.
Sean, I really appreciate you coming on, man. And I love the fact that this podcast was a sort of like a manifestation of an experience you had at a restaurant that I opened up in 2017.
Me too.
I love that. And so I guess to wrap this up, everybody that's listening, I said it in the beginning of the episode, and I'll say it again. You never know what kind of impact you're going to have. You should be self-aware at all times about who's around you, and just understand that there's somebody listening. There's somebody listening, and I don't say that in a bad way. I say that in a really fucking good way. Mm-hmm. There's somebody listening, and you know, today it was Sean, and so I'm grateful for you, man. Where can people find you?
Easiest place is on Instagram at Dr. Sean Pastuch.
Awesome. This was another great episode of the Creatures That Have It podcast. I know you got value. I certainly did. I was totally engaged the whole time, like laser focused on my brother. And I'm probably going to give Active Life a call myself and see what it's all about, because it sounds like something I need to do. And if you're not thinking about it, I mean, which I sure you are, you should just give it a shot as well. Wherever you are in life, I think that self-development is sort of the key. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. It would mean the world to me if you shared this podcast. That is the rent I'm asking you to pay for being a listener to the Creatures of Habit pod. Share the podcast with a friend. Share it with a family member. Share it with whoever, an enemy. But share the fucking thing. And write us a review and give us a 5-star rating. That would really mean the world. And if you don't give us a 5-star rating, don't give us a rating. But if you are going to take the time, make it 5 stars. Write us a cool review. It means the world. It really does help the podcast grow. And you know the deal. I appreciate you. I love you. Until the next one, y'all. Peace.